knew one of these times we were going to end up matching.
We got the gray shirt?
Yeah.
All right.
See?
Yes. Totally inadvertent and totally awesome
Yeah.
at the same time. Now if I can just
Completely
get my...
not planned.
No. So, well, maybe should I get my green hat? I was wearing one earlier.
Yeah, I don't know. You can.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Trying to get the angle right here on the...
Same.
How many DVD cases... Are DVDs a thing anymore? How many DVD cases can I...
Not really.
stand? Now, we were doing some gardening today, and I was told numerous times, we had the lines painted for the "Don't dig here," and or call before you dig, and they said, yeah, you can use hand tools. There's no way you can break these lines, and they were wrong. You can cut through a line. Luckily, we only broke the outer casing of a line and did not damage the line in it. And when they came by, they just said, oh, just throw some duct tape on there and you're good. So,
For what? Which line?
One of our internet lines outside the house in our yard. They spray painted and said, this is where they are. And they said, also, no problem. You got hand tools. You'll be fine. And sometimes we do not know our own strength. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, let's call it that.
Sure.
So sorry, a little late to everyone who, the 5 people that maybe wait for us at 4, but
sure, yeah.
Me and you and my wife being 3 of those 5. So
yeah.
But just got done talking with Curtis Beach. I'll go ahead and mention his name now, just because he's very tied in to the person we spoke to today.
Yeah.
We spoke to Allison Halverson last week, and some of the things Curtis said today were on the same lines, and I think we'll probably talk about Curtis next week, just because he brought up some really cool, timely topics. So, mental health issues and things. So we'll talk about that next week. But Allison, one of the things that she really hit on, and we're probably going to stay mostly on just this one topic today, and Curtis said it as well, was just how important track was to them, and how they made sure to make that a priority. They were at college, while they were in college. So, even though they made, academics was important to them. Curtis went to Duke, not an easy school, to go to. And Allison went to San Diego State and, majored in kinesiology, which is not a super easy major, very sciencey. But they both said how much of a priority they made training. And I just wanted to dive into that a little bit today.
Yeah. I think that's appropriate. I distinctly recall having to make that decision myself as well. And so when both Allison and Curtis today mentioned that, it kind of spoke to me. I had to choose my class. Like, literally, sometimes I remember picking classes based around my workout schedule, which, to non-athletes, that might be silly. But I think it was it Allison, someone that we spoke to actually said, I think I majored in track.
And that was Allison.
That was Allison.
That I majored in track and I minored in kinesiology.
Yeah. Which obviously, when someone ends up going pro, it sort of seems like that was a good pick. But I also, and I don't know if this is a little off topic for me to be saying, like, to bring this up with you, is sort of, I think those are the anomalous people. They're special. Most people don't go pro.
Right.
And so trying to strike that healthy balance is probably the majority, like for the majority of people, that's what the goal is to find, how do I not short myself on my passion and also get a good education.
Yeah, and I think um, the way they both brought it up, they still cared about their education. It's I think the stigma of student athlete, student comes first. And some of these things that we hear so repetitively. Just because you want to give your heart to something else, really dive into your passion for sport, or why you're doing it, why you're investing so much time into it. It does not mean that you can't get a good education. And I think that's a misnomer, that you use the word balance. You don't have to do one at the expense of the other. They spoke a little bit about, I scheduled my classes around when I could practice. But he didn't say, Curtis didn't say, but I feel like I was missing out, and same with Allison. She didn't say, well, I felt like I was missing out. I know you had to choose between, a particular minor, one class that you needed for a minor. But I've never heard you really relate to it as I feel like I missed out. And I have heard you say the other side, where had you not done that, maybe you would have missed out on some of the great experiences you had as an athlete and some of the things you were able to accomplish.
For sure. I definitely, like, to fill the listeners in, I did choose not to complete a minor when I was in college because the one class that I needed would have meant that I would have to do all of my Tuesday workouts by myself. Or maybe it was not Tuesday, I think it was Friday. But either way, I was doing one day a week without it. And as a result of choosing to be able to work out with the team, I do believe that was a big factor in why I had a successful senior year and PR'd in the steeplechase by like 15 seconds. And
made the national meet and
made the D1 national meet. And but again, it's a choice. And I graduated from a not easy school.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's doable. And I think that's what was the overarching message from both Curtis and Allison, was that they made choices. And in particular, I wrote down one thing that about Allison was she said something about regret. I think someone asked her a question of, like, was there anything you regret? And she said, I think she flipped it around and said, like, I know what I didn't regret was focusing on the team and making a meaningful experience for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I just I rewatched that and the interview we had with her today, and some of the things she said. Like, she talked about it during the interview, but before we signed off, she said, "Hey, I just want to say one more thing," and she spent about 3-4 minutes kind of saying, take advantage of the fact that you have a team there, and take advantage of this opportunity. So maybe you missed the minor, but maybe that's an educational opportunity you could pick up later in life. Mm-hmm. Maybe you have to shift one class and you don't get the exact professor you want. But she said it from the other side, invest in your team and being on your team. You don't need to party. You don't need to stay up late. There's never, you don't have to say, I wish I would have tried harder. I wish I would have listened to coach. I wish I would have tried more in workouts. Take full opportunity of the chance you have with being on a team. And some of the other pros we've talked with, that's one of the things they say they miss the most when they leave the college setting, is the team. And so if you invest more heavily into your athletic side, you are going to get an amazing experience. And when they say college is the time of your life, this is one of the biggest misnomers. when college is the best time of your life, the best 4 years of life, take advantage of it. That doesn't mean party. Like that comment always gets associated with partying. Like, live it up. I've got to do this. And that train of thought is the party train, and that's not necessarily what it means. It means take advantage of the situation that's going to maximize your experience. And when you're on a team, like, that is one of the things that is this is the last time you can do that. Like, joining a club, running in a running club later, like, it is all so much different. And even though you might have like that Sunday long run together, or the one workout a week plus the long run together, it is nothing like just getting together for a casual 30-minute morning run, and rolling out in a room together, and then catching each other at lunch. Like, so take advantage of that as living it up. Don't think you've got to do these other things, because Allison even said, like, you've got time to do these other things after you graduate. The track and field team is not always going to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. That was pretty great. Mic drop. Yeah, that was good.
Kind of along those lines, another, being a college coach, being an NCAA coach, I hear this a lot. I gotta choose the college first. I gotta choose it for the college first. And that is important. You have to have college that has your prerequisite interest at it. Whether it's a field of study or the comfortability of campus. But there are so many colleges in the country that, as you kind of narrow it down to the handful of colleges that you think could be a good fit. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I have people, well, I have it narrowed down to 3 and I'm just trying to go through the final details. You clearly have an idea of what you're looking for, and you've done that research. But something Allison said was, I chose my college for my coach. I chose it because of that situation. And I think that was another, insight into her. She gave us her own insight when she said, quote, "I was not like other athletes," which is maybe something we can tangent off here soon, but
sure.
She chose college for her coach. And I think that there's something valuable to hear from that, because if you have a few choices, narrowed down, it might be important to make that college based on the coach and the situation, because you're leaving your family to go to college, and you need to go somewhere where you can trust that family you're joining is led by, the type of person or the type of atmosphere you're looking for.
Yeah. I often have this, what was it? I can't remember the context, but, you can get a good education just about anywhere. I don't remember exactly where I've said this or who I've said it to, but honestly, you can get it at a community college, you can get it at a big state school, you can get it at an Ivy League school, you can get it at you can learn just about everything on the internet now. But what you can't recreate is the experience of a team of people working towards similar goals, which is ultimately what college was kind of created for. There were think tanks where people would talk about ideas and, solve the world's problems. And to some degree, modern college isn't that anymore.
Right.
So that has kind of been diluted to some degree, but also, I mean, for the masses, it's good. Overall, that's great, because education is easier, more accessible. These are all good things. But then it makes it harder sometimes to decide what makes something special. And, I think Allison in particular, she drove that home as my coach. This team is the thing that was special to her, which was really cool to hear her talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
Also, I don't want to discredit that, like each schools are like universities are important. You can't learn, shouldn't learn. You're not going to learn how to do brain surgery on the internet. Sorry,
Please don't.
please don't.
Please
Disclaimer.
don't. Yeah, she talked about the value of having a team and everybody chasing that goal together, and it really is just a such an important part of that college experience. And it always makes me a little bit sad when people choose not to do it in college, when they whether it's my school or they choosing to go somewhere else, just when they choose not to continue a sport that they enjoyed, because they think they have to focus on the academics, or they think that that this is going to take away from that opportunity. And I realize that there are some people who really want to throw themselves into research, or really want to throw themselves passionately at that, and that's at least an active decision, that you're choosing to invest more of your energy into that, and that is what excites you, and that is your passion and your purpose. But for the people who choose to just walk away because they think it's going to be a battle or a conflict with time, that those are the ones that frustrate me. And then in a similar level, the ones who are on the team and don't maximize everything that they can get out of it. Not that you have to live, eat, breathe, sleep the sport and at the expense of education or at the expense of anything else, but don't let anything else become an excuse for why you're not giving your best. Well, I had to stay up really late studying. I had to I had to do this. I wanted to join a club. I understand some of the values of clubs, but you kind of have to look at your team as kind of the ultimate club that you're on, and the opportunity to make a difference. There's I think there's a little different if you're like trying to start something, like really trying to start a club or try to create a movement with something, versus supplementing, being a member of a club. You can still be impactful as a member of a club, but if you're not going to invest enough of your full energy into it, then why are you doing it? And I say the same thing if you're on a team. If you're on a team, if you're not going to invest your full energy into it, why are you doing it?
Sure.
So take advantage of.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean, I'm kind of with you on, if you're going to do anything, you want to do it well. I think you should want to commit. But I think what you're pointing to is that when you ask that question of like, well, what are you doing? Are you getting the most out of this? Like, those are the questions that people should be asking.
Yeah.
Am I getting what I want or what I need?
Mm-hmm.
And if the answer is no, then you need to figure out a better way. If someone goes to school and they're like, I want to be a great distance runner.
Yep.
Then you should do everything you can to make that happen. If someone says, I want to be a doctor, do everything you can to make that happen.
Yep.
You kind of don't know until you try. And I agree with you. There is some frustration sometimes when people say, they turn down an opportunity because of something that they anticipate could be a problem.
Yeah.
When they don't actually know that yet.
Yeah.
That is frustrating because they're probably not wrong that, that could be an issue. Time, to spoiler a little bit, one of the things Curtis said was time management is a huge part of what helped him to be successful in school and also after. He admitted he wasn't perfect, and he's not perfect, and none of us are. Mm-hmm. But if you can use your time productively, there's a lot more of it than we usually think.
Oh yeah.
And there's probably enough time to get good grades and be a good athlete if that's what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you and I had similar experiences with the value of a certain grade, in college. And there were some classes that I was extremely interested in, and I put my full energy into it. And there was freshman lit class, which I knew was not, on my radar for helping me down the road. And so I didn't invest as much time into it. But you got to get what you want out of the education you're seeking,
Mm-hmm.
and I think just the same applies with the athletic side of things. And I hate the stigma that if you're going to college for an education, that gets to be the crutch that you use for everything else. That I can't get my extra sleep and I can't do this. You can if you actually set your priorities. I think people think they have priorities, but they don't actually know how to set them. And maybe that's a skill, we've got to do better at teaching as coaches is, not just using the word priorities and throwing it around like a crutch, but being able to say, no, these are my actual priorities and these are how I'm going to go accomplish it. And being able to say anything else is totally not worth my time. I think there's, social media is currently the bugaboo with a time suck, that plus I guess all the ancillary, games that are on phones now that are there to basically they're programmed to keep us going. I read something on Facebook how the design of the Facebook app and now Instagram app and those kind of things where it's a scrolling feed is designed to constantly keep you there, and before you know it, 15 minutes is gone. And I know when I was in college, or actually in high school too, I'd get home from high school and I would just go sit on the couch and I would basically take a nap for about 30 to 60 minutes. And I knew, I was not wasting time watching TV because I knew that is what I was there for. Like I knew this 30 to 60 minutes was me spending time resting. That was purposeful doing nothing. You can spend time on Instagram purposefully doing something if that's what you're budgeted for. But when you set priorities, I got a little off my topic. Allison just joined us. Good to have you again, Allison.
Cool.
But when you set your priorities, like Allison did, my priority is training. My priority is getting the most out of this that I can. And she did what she needed to do to be prepared for that next workout. And same with academics. You get prepared for, this is what I need to accomplish academics. This is what I need to do to accomplish my athletic goals. And everything else has to kind of say, pause.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to like what you said. Well, one of the things you said about maybe we as coaches need to do a better job. I think a lot of us do a bad job of actually setting goals. And I am remembering kind of our meeting
that are meaningful goals, like that.
Well, yeah,
true goals that I'm,
Well, goals as in here's the end goal, and how do I get intermediate goals that add up to the big goal?
All the process goals.
Yeah, and how do I get there? And then all of the little pieces add up and they keep you going and that are meaningful and all end up getting us where we want to go. I think we get distracted, and what you're talking about with social media is it's exactly that. It's just a distraction for a lot of people. There are definitely productive uses. I mean, we're trying to do one right now that hopefully is somewhat productive.
Well, it's helpful to Ryan Iser. He's one of my former athletes, and he's been telling us preach again.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah. But I think it all comes back to, again, it's making choices. If you want to do it and it's that important to you, then get the help that you need. Like, that's why we're here. We're here to help in one area, and if and also, again, spoiler about what Curtis said, like, he got a specific kind of help for a specific kind of problem,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's what makes, a good athlete a great athlete.
Yeah.
Is
It's the ability to focus. Like he said that too. Again, we'll kind of talk more about Curtis and his what you just alluded to, the some of the mental health aspects and some of the ways to really help yourself, even if you're feeling like everything's okay. We'll talk about that next week. But he said when he was doing something, he focused on that thing. Like when he was at track, he focused on track. When he was studying, he focused on studying. And if he had to put his phone in a different place, he put his phone in a different place. Yeah. He made sure that he was focused on the task at hand. And I think that's it kind of goes hand in hand with knowing how to set goals, meaningful process goals, and actually carrying them out. Like, I want to run this time by the end of the year. Okay, well, one thing I can do is get better sleep. Okay, like sometimes it's easy to identify those intermediary steps, but then actually carrying them out is the challenge of changing ourselves and becoming. I've always said it's very easy for anybody in this age group to become better. 18 to 22, you should become better. Absent of you doing something really stupid, staying up super late, partying all the time, you should be able to improve. So, you just have to be special. That's a phrase we use a lot in our team. Is we're not trying to be better, we're trying to be special. To do that, you have to be trying to actively change your habits and your routines. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results, that's insanity. That doesn't mean always running into a problem. It means you could be improving. Like, you could be getting those small improvements. And if you are wanting that big goal, if you're wanting to do something special, you can't just do the normal you, even if that's getting you improvements. You have to make some kind of active effort to change something, to do it at a different level, to do it better.
I'm noticing something occurred to me while we were talking here, while I was listening to you, is that we're talking about Allison and Curtis here. They were heptathletes, decathletes.
A lot of events,
so they have a lot of events.
Compartmentalize and focus.
They had to learn to compartmentalize and focus. I'm practicing discus right now.
Yeah.
I need to work on this aspect of this. By nature of their sport, they had to get good at that. However, in reality, when it comes to sport,
is this a Jeff for decathletes for everybody?
No. Sure, I don't know. I think it was cool, but I think we're focusing on the things that we do as athletes to, lift weights or get better, do the drills, train more. In reality, the bulk of where you're going to make the improvement is on the other 23 hours of your day. It's sleep, it's diet, it's rest, it's recovery. It's not even about the work sometimes.
I think you've probably heard me say it. We have 3 hours a day to work and 21 hours a day to screw it up.
Yeah. And so, I just wanted to say that and bring it back to, yes, I think it's important that you focus on what you need to focus. But I think we tend to, when we talk about focusing, people only think about like how many reps, how many miles, how many whatever.
I had a great workout. I did this. I accomplished it. And we're throwing the energy into the things we do well. Right. We're feeding the feeding the lion. That there's always the constant debate on what do you work on in training. Like this is usually with training. Do you work on your strengths or your weaknesses? Do you maximize your strengths or do you minimize your weaknesses? Mm-hmm. And I think that if we tweak that discussion in a slightly different way, you're already working on the workouts, and that's what usually comes easy to most of us. Like there's some of us that have problems performing in workouts, or it's generally the other way. You have problems performing in races, we're great in the workouts. That happens more often than the other way, where people aren't good in workouts but they can put together in races. Right. But generally, when we say you need to focus more, or you need to put more mental energy into running, we use that phrase sometimes, put more effort into running. It might not mean at practice. Like you might have that on lock, just by showing, we throw percentages all the time, but 90% of the effort is just, as the battle is just showing up, so you show up and give your best effort that day. That's what a coach and teammates are there to hold you accountable to. So you might not have to bring as much mental energy into that as when we say bring better effort to running as a whole. It's with regard to all the other stuff, all the stuff where you don't have the accountability of a coach. We're not calling you at dinner saying, send me a picture of your plate of food. I want to make sure you're doing it right. We're not saying, what time are you going to bed? That those are not like constant accountability checks. You might have one teammate, one roommate who's a teammate or something that you have some more accountability with. But as soon as you leave practice, it's very easy to become, for lack of a better word, lazy and choose the easy way out for things. I'm going to grab the quickest thing at dinner because this line is longer. Well, that's the healthiest line. Like, why are you avoiding that just for time? Like, is that something that's going to hold you back from your goals? Yeah. So maybe put your effort into the other things more so than the training.
Yeah. And
Dom kind of talked about that too. She said on workout days, our brain is there, and we work out, then we lift, and then we stretch, and we roll together, we do all our ancillary stuff together, and then we eat. Like they put all their mental energy into the stuff after the workout.
Yeah, it was a whole day, and then her next day was just, all I have to do is go for a run. It doesn't matter.
Just get the miles. Just
go for a run. Yeah. And so then that next day, she focuses on all the other parts of her life. Yeah. And again, I think it's cool that we talked with so many multi-event athletes, because it sometimes distance runners become very like linear, like we stay in our lane, just run more miles, but it's really helpful to see that other athletes, by nature of their sport, they have to do this sort of balancing act, where it's, I'm going to work on this thing for a little while, and then I have to work on that thing for a little while, and they have to practice time management. I think it's super cool to be able to talk to them and get that perspective. Yeah, and to throw a plug in for liberal arts education, that's essentially what is happening. Is you're putting yourself in a position where you can try to learn from these other areas. I know some of the kids on our team have said that we've got great discussions about neuroscience when we're in our philosophy class, and it's not even the science part of their learning. So, just in our sport, distance runners, using your phrase, stay in our lane, we do that. We think, I have to think like a distance runner. I have to train like a distance runner. I have to learn from other distance runners. And I think sometimes that we make our biggest leaps are when we think about it from someone else's perspective. My first two positions were sprint related, more so than my first position was sprint related, and then one of my jobs later in my career, I went to a position that had very little distance runners, and so I became the men's sprint coach. And I think I learned a lot more about interval training. I think I learned a lot more about power output.
we think 8x400. Well, 8x400 is not the goal. It's the specific power output we're looking. And I learned a lot more about that from sprinters than I did from just watching distance runners. And then, like you were just saying, the distance or the decathletes, learning how to, it's such an intuitive thing. We don't even think about it. So I'm glad Curtis brought it up, that you have to compartmentalize each event. And he's able to do that. And so how do we translate that to our athletes over the course of their day? How do we translate it to our athletes over the course of their career? How do you compartmentalize, these are the things I need to do to make this better?
Yeah.
So no, it was great. I'm glad we got to kind of dive into one topic more heavily. We've talked with some great people and had a lot of ideas that they always throw out so many ideas. We try to, maybe it's the curse of our society. We try to, get all the information, and we want to talk about all the information, or I just like talking more. But I think it was great being able to dive into this idea a little bit deeper.
Yeah. I think that's just, it's a sign that we're interested, like we want to cover everything, find it all very interesting and all helpful, but we can only take in so much at once, and we have to kind of like try and make the most of what we do have at that time.
And maybe it's literally we could go back and we could analyze, I guess it's mostly my thought process because I'm the one who says this is I think what we should talk about. But we talk about that in this very talk. We're saying things that I should be learning from anyway. Instead of trying to talk about so many things, instead of our athletes trying to do so many things in college, let's learn to focus on one, and maybe we can make that a little bit more special. Maybe this talk was a little bit more enjoyable, and we learned more from it just by diving into this one topic. So
I think that's
practicing what we preach.
Yeah, that's a pretty good observation, Matt.
So well, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that. And next week we'll talk. I'll be posting our interview with Allison tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, on all of our LC Pios XCTF channels. It'll also show up on my Barreau Trained Instagram as well. But we're excited to release that talk with Allison. It was awesome. She was invested in our team too. She wanted to talk with us. She asked a lot of questions back to our team, and but next week we'll talk about Curtis Beach's comments on the benefits of seeking out mental help. Mental health avenues, even if you think everything's going right. So
yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that one.
Well, thanks Jeff for joining me today, and
thank you, man.
Look forward to talking with you next week.
Sounds good. All right.